everybody, it's Tony George alongside my good buddy Scott Spreitzer from DocSports.com. We're talking NASCAR. Fast track to profits last weekend. We talked a little bit about the Las Vegas race I went to. Want to thank my buddy J.J. Yaley, drove in both races last week. Some hot passes. I took Wade, the owner of Dockstown. We had a nice time and a nice 2-0 sweep, and Scott swept his card as well.
Perfect in 2020.
There you go. He's absolutely unbeaten this year in NASCAR, and this week, the NASCAR boys head to California. Fontana, this is a 2-mile D-shaped track, and they got a little different aero packages on the car this week, Scott. Yep. And what it does is it makes for a lot of tight racing. So you want to look at a lot of experience and history on this track. And I know Scott and I talked off camera before we started. Both of us were talking about Jimmie Johnson in this race. And Jimmie Johnson last week, thank you to your pit crew for giving you about 10 spots up the board with 3 laps to go last week so we could beat Byron, by the way. But nonetheless, Jimmie Johnson is the only race driver in the history of NASCAR to win this race in his 20s, in his 30s, and in his 40s. And a matter of fact, Scott, I wrote this down. He has 5 wins on this track, 11 top 5 finishes, 15 top 10 finishes in his last 21 races here. And of course, he's going to be one of the prohibitive favorites in this race and he's ran good this year. Yep. This is his last year. He's running, the Alley 48 car, but nonetheless, here's some other guys you want to keep an eye on this week. Kyle Busch, who won it last year, has got 10 top 5 finishes here. Kyle Larson, Joey Logano, who's been dialed in, won the Vegas race.
He's been dialed in since he was 14.
Yeah, and he could have won the Daytona race. He would have got wrecked out by Chastain there with about 5 laps left, which knocked my play out in that game, in that race, I might add. And, of course, a long shot here, Ryan Blaney. But we're not talking about who's going to win the race. Scott and I do head-to-head matchups. So it's all about, you know what, Scott, the qualifying times.
Again, I want to see practices. To me, practice sessions mean even more than qualifying on a track like this because it's not like Vegas. Vegas is like you're starting 40th out of 40 cars, and there were 38 cars entered last week.
Right.
You're starting around last, you're probably not going to get up to the front by the end of the race. Vegas is a weird track like that. It's a different track, different animal in Fontana. And one of the things that's going to help out all the Chevy drivers, but Jimmie Johnson, and I probably won't be going against him this week, and I don't know if I'll be on him yet. We got to watch the practice results. But what the Chevy cars have done, they actually changed the front end of the car. And what it's done is it gives more downforce. It's an 8-inch spoiler, by the way, on this package. And they've got that downforce, which is a little bit different than it was last year when they were struggling. They've got the 8-inch spoiler on this package, 550 horsepower race. This package that they're using at Fontana, they're going to be using that like at half the season, like 18 races this season. But the thing about Jimmie Johnson, we saw the downforce, the new downforce and the new front end of the Chevy make a difference for him last week, and he was able to run well. The first time I went to Fontana was 1999. I had just 2 years prior started following NASCAR for betting purposes. I was there in 2002 when a little old guy named Jimmie Johnson won his first NASCAR top circuit race, which was right there at Fontana. And he had a great car. Jeff Gordon, of course, his partner, and he went on to win that race. As Tony mentioned, he's dominated Fontana over the years.
Unreal.
17 top 10s overall, 5 or 6 wins, checkered flags. And so it's a long-winded story to say I probably will not be going against Jimmie Johnson. I might play on him as long as nothing weird happens in practice. Last week, big play for me was Harvick over Kyle Busch. And I believe I put in the analysis, you might want to take a picture of this write-up because this might be the only time in 36 races, where I'm going to play against Kyle Busch. He does not do well at the NASCAR Top Circuit on his home track in Las Vegas.
No, he does not.
It is a different story in California, in Fontana. So he's a guy you got to watch this week. Tony mentioned Ryan Blaney. He might win this thing. Team Penske's really good on this track. JGR, which is Kyle Busch, real good on this track. But again, I think Ryan Blaney, if he has good practice sessions this weekend and qualifies decently, I think Blaney is going to be used on a few matchups by a few sharp people. I might be one of those guys that are jumping in on Blaney this week. So just some thoughts. And again, if you go back to handicap the last couple of years, or last year specifically, when it comes to a track like Fontana, just look and see how drivers did with
Yep.
this 550 horsepower package
Yep.
with the 8-inch spoiler, and then added to the fact what Chevy did in the offseason with their front end, the changes they made.
Right. Experience is going to be key in this race. Of course, we mentioned Jimmie Johnson. Blaney, in his short career, only 4 races there, has 3 top 10s.
Yeah.
So, and of course, there's going to be a lot of lead changes here.
Sure.
There's and a lot of pits as well. So you want to look at those pit crews and who's performing well there. This is going to be one hell of a race. Scott's going to have you dialed in on Sunday as well as
Oh,
myself.
can I mention real quickly? I post my plays at 11 p.m. Pacific time Saturday nights. We'd like to get it out there, and so be sure to go and check them out. Anytime after 11 p.m. Pacific Saturday night. The race doesn't go until 12:30 Pacific, 3:30 Eastern on Sunday, but we like to get out in front of it. So there you go. 11
Yeah.
o'clock Pacific time is the deadline for my NASCAR picks.
And mine are out at 7:30 a.m. in the morning. That's because I want to talk to Scott when he gets out of bed, see who he took. But nonetheless, mine will be out very early in the morning as well. How do you get those for free? Guess what? We changed some pricing over at the website. The race packages are $30, down from $45. Take advantage of this. You can get a free $60 by clicking that link, which means you get my package and his package
Let me tell him something
absolutely
about that.
free.
And let me tell him something about that. Last year, Tony was up over $7,000 on the NASCAR circuit. This year, I'm perfect in 2020. And if you include the way we finished up from like May 1st to the end of last year, plus so far this year, 16-4 my last 20 races, 23-7 my last 30. A couple of guys are dialed in here, I should say, and we didn't have to change our. I'm not even going to say it. Go ahead and finish up.
Well, anyway, hey, guess what? Get over there, get it done this weekend. NASCAR is one of those sports where not a lot of people wager it. So what happens is when there is some money coming in on some popular sites or whatever, those lines change dramatically.
Sure.
You can see a minus 130 go to minus 200 in a millisecond. So when Scott's got his picks out on Saturday
Same
night,
with
go
Tony.
there,
Yep.
get them, and bet mine early in the morning, and get yourself hooked up. Like I said, fast track to profits, DocSports.com and NASCAR this Sunday.